You can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, so yesterday we covered some of the topics on modifiers. So yeah, we will continue on the same topic. Yesterday we discussed about interface. Yeah, we will continue on the same topic again today. So here, so what I did yesterday, or no, not yesterday, today. I mean, maybe for you also it is useful when you are practicing, or once you're done with your practice. If you follow the same way, I think it's better for you even in future for your reference. So for example, so right now you're seeing my screen. Here I have an interface. So here we are covering some of the topics on interface, right? So once whatever the topics that we covered on a particular concept, and when you are doing an example on that, so what you need to do, you need to write the comment there itself in the as part of the same class or interface. For example, yesterday I told you about some points about interface. So the first point that I talked about interface is so here if you see here, the first one is that first one is what is an interface, right? Of course, there is no specific standard definition for that, but still we can explain it. What is an interface, right? So first we can note down that point, like what is an interface. So I mean there are different it's not definition, but there are different ways to explain that concept, right? So one point about interface, how to say that is any 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 specification requirement. So we can call it, it's not exact definition, but it's like you have any requirement, and if we specify that requirement, but there is no definition for that, we uh, we are just mentioning the requirements, but we are not we are not implementing it. So any requirement specification, we can say, we can call it as a interface. uh, Other example, other definition, like I think I have noted down somewhere here. Yeah. So like this. So what I did, I have noted down all the points here. So when you guys are practicing in any concept, while you are practicing it or after you are done with your practice, whatever the valid points that you came across on the same class itself, if you can note it down, so it's easy for you for your future reference. Uh, so the first point, I think this is a standard definition. Any service requirement specification is called an interface, or otherwise an interface is an abstract type that is used to specify a behavior that classes must implement. Or I mean, these are the different definitions. It's not definition, but these are the different ways of if somebody asks like what is an interface, so these are the different ways of explaining like what is an interface. But overall, what all these 3 points are talking about is an interface. It will just and coming to the next point, like so when you declare an interface, uh, so what is the what is the modifier that methods can have? What are the modifiers that a variable can have? What are the modifiers that interface at class level at interface level can have? So if you see here, this we already covered yesterday, that by default by default interface methods, all the methods that we have in interface are by default public and abstract. So we have seen here, even if we are not mentioning them as public and abstract, but still by default those methods are public and abstract. So the next point is the second point that we already discussed, like while overriding any interface methods, we should declare those methods as public. So I'll show you that. For example, I have an interface here. This is APSRTC interface. For example, I'll take one implementation class for this. So I'm implementing that interface. So why it is showing this error here is we are saying that we are implementing that interface, but we did not override whatever the methods are there in that interface, right? So here we have I'll remove this for now. These concepts we'll cover when we are talking about Java 8 features. For now, we'll check just about the interface. So here, for now, I'll just take one. So, or I'll take two better. So here in this interface, I have two methods which are just defined. Of course, interface will not have any definition for any of the methods. So in the child class means whatever the class that is implementing the parent class. So in the child class, we should override. Override means the same method with a different with the same method signature with the different implementation. So in the child class, if you don't override all the methods present in the interface, then it will show this error. So what is the error is this class must implement the inherited abstract methods. So what it is saying, we should implement all the abstract methods. So by default, as we discussed earlier, by default, all the methods that are there in the interface by default public and abstract. Whether you mention it here in the code or don't mention it, by default those methods are public and abstract. So in the child class, all the methods present in the interface should override all the abstract methods. So if you don't override, then it is showing the compilation error. So the error is we should implement all the inherited abstract methods. So now, so I have here two methods, two abstract methods. So I'll go here and I'll just so observe here void login. So this is one. So still here it is showing that error. Of course, I'll take the other method as well. Registration. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you that why it is showing that error. So if you see here earlier at the class level, it was showing that error. It was saying that all the methods, all the abstract methods should override. So we did that, but still it is showing that error. It is showing the errors in the methods because here this is a class, right? In interface, if you don't mention anything at the method level, by default it is public and abstract, whereas here it is a class. So if you don't mention anything, then the modifier for that method is default, right? So now here in this class, in the child class, the method modifier is default, whereas in the interface the method modifier was public, right? Public abstract. By default it is public abstract. Here the modifier is the accessibility is public, but what we are saying in the child class, we have decreased the access level. So that is why it is showing that error. So that means when you are overriding the abstract methods, you should not change the modifier. By default, not by default, you should make that method as public. Okay, so here also it is showing that error. So what it is saying, cannot reduce the visibility of the inherited method. Okay, so because in the interface level the visibility was public, and whereas when it comes to here we are saying that the visibility is default, that is not allowed. So that is why it is showing that error. So we should not reduce the visibility of any abstract method when we are overriding in the child class. So now if you say this as public, then we are good now. Okay, so this is one point. So when you are overriding abstract methods in the child class, we should not reduce the visibility of the methods. So that is one point. Okay, so another point is in the child class, when you are implementing an interface, in the child class, if you don't want to override all the abstract methods, then we should make that class as abstract, because some of the methods here, I'll remove it. So now what it will say, it is saying that we should override all the abstract methods, but I don't want to override all the abstract methods. So in the child class, if you don't want to override any of the abstract methods, I mean not any, but all the abstract methods, then we should make that class as abstract. So now we are good here. So this is one point. And the next point is, let's go here. Yeah, we discussed about all the points. Yeah. So now you might get doubts. So if you see the, we already discussed about abstract, right? We already discussed about abstract class. So abstract class means any class which is having some of the, I mean not some, but if a class which is having at least one abstract method, then we should declare that class as abstract method, sorry, abstract class. So if you see here the similarities there, you can observe some of the similarities between abstract and interface, right? In interface also we have all the abstract methods, and at the same time abstract class also we can have. It's not like mandatory, but we can have all the abstract methods. So there is a slight similarities, but it's not the exactly same. The behavior, some of the behaviors are different when you compare abstract class and interface. So there are a couple of differences between abstract class and interface. So now we will see what are those differences. So the first point, is so we already discussed about that. In if you take an abstract class, if you take in any abstract class, then in that class we can have one abstract method or more than one abstract method, and we can have concrete methods as well. Concrete method means a method which is fully defined. I mean any method, like if you go here, so this we'll call it as concrete method because we have some definition for that, right? So in an abstract class, so let me take that abstract class also here. I'll take another abstract class. So this is my another abstract class. So here I can have a concrete method. At the same time, I can have an abstract method. Right? So, or I don't need to take an abstract method, but still I can declare that class as an abstract. Right, I think I told that point earlierly wrong, that if a class is at least having one abstract method, then we should make that class as abstract. I think that was wrong, but if a class, I think it's other way around. Like if you have at least one abstract method in any class, then we should make that class as an abstract. Say for example, I'll remove it here, and which is fine. Now if I take one abstract method, then it'll show that compilation error, because I should, okay, this is duplicate method. So now what is the wrong here? Yeah, so this is the, so now what it is saying, so since I have an abstract method, then it is asking to make that class as an abstract, right? So if you have a class, and in that class if at least one abstract method is there, then you should make that class as an abstract. So overall abstract class means you can have all the concrete methods, or you can have a combination of uh, concrete methods as well as abstract methods, or you can have all the abstract methods. Whereas in an interface, but this point is applicable, valid only for up to 1.6. Up to 1.6, in an interface you should have only abstract methods. But that point is valid only up to 1.6. 1.7 onwards, we can have, they have introduced uh, few features, like we can have, yesterday I shown you, right? We can have default methods in an interface. We can have static methods. These two are up to 8, and in 9 they have introduced the private methods as well. But up to 1.6, we should have only abstract methods. So that is one of the difference between abstract class and interface. Now if you see the other differences, let me go here. Yeah, this we already talked about, like an interface, all the method signature, the method modifier, it can allow only public and abstract. For all the methods in an interface, it'll allow only public and abstract modifiers. Whereas in the abstract class, it'll allow both concrete and abstract methods. The next one is when it comes to the variables in an interface, it'll allow only these three modifiers. So for any variable in an interface, it'll allow only public, static, and final modifiers. Uh, but whereas in the abstract class, there is no restriction. So for variables, there is no restriction, like we should have only these three modifiers. There is no restriction on that. And another restriction in the interface is in the interface, these four are not allowed for the variables: private, protected, transient, and volatile. Yeah, when we come to this topic, we'll discuss on what is transient and what is volatile. Uh, but you might get doubt that why the variables present in interface are not allowed. The reason is simple. If you see, we already discussed about one point that the variables, all the variables, whether you declare or you don't declare, by default, those are final and public, final and static. When you declare any variable as, I'll take an example here. I'll take one. Okay. So this is not here. So what we are saying, in interface, by default, all the variables are static and public, static, and final. And again, what we are saying, the variables will not allow private, protected, transient, and volatile. So why? The reason is, I mean, there itself both are contradicting, right? I'm saying the variable is final. When we say any variable as final, that means you should declare the value while you are declaring the variable itself. If I don't declare a value, then it will show the compilation error. So now if I declare some value here, then the compiler error is gone, right? So that means the rule here is, by default, it is final, public, static, and final. And final means we should initialize that variable with some value. That is the rule. If when you declare any variable, whether it is an interface or in a class or anywhere, once you declare any variable as final, that means while declaring that variable itself, you should initialize it. That is the rule. So now we are initialized here. So now what we are saying, I am trying to set this variable with private, right? So private means in a variable, private means, I first of all, if I declare any method or variable as private, means I can access it only within the class or within that boundary itself. Assume that this is the boundary. So in this boundary only I can access. But the interface concept is, it is we are just declaring, and we are just specifying the requirements, and whoever is implementing, they should provide the implementation. So, and what we are saying, all the variables in interface are final, and whoever is implementing, they need to take that requirement, right? Now if I say private, then I cannot access it outside the class. Then there is no use. Even if it allows, of course it will not allow, but even if it allow, but as per the private rule, since we cannot access it from the outside, then there is no point of making it as private. So as per the rule, it will not, I mean, both are contradicting. Private means we cannot access it outside, and final means we should initialize the value. And if you declare a private variable, then you don't need to initialize it with the value. I mean, that is the rule. I mean, you can initialize it, but uh, you don't need to initialize it if it is a private or protected. But since we are saying as per the interface rule, it should be final, then that means as per the rule, it will not allow to make that variable in an interface as private. Same thing is applicable for protected. Protected also, it has some restriction, right? Within the package you can access. Outside the package till to the child class you can access, but other than that you cannot access. So because of that restriction, again the same point will applicable. uh, since the accessibility is very low, then there is no point of you making that variable as protected inside an interface. So yeah, we will talk about when we come to this transient and volatile. We'll talk about that. But of course, those two are also not eligible to use it inside an interface for any of the variables. But when we come to those concepts, we will discuss more about those 2 points. Whereas in the abstract class, we don't have such restrictions uh, in setting in using these kind of modifiers for any of the variables. This point that we just discussed, like interface variable should be initialized. Why? Because by default all the variables by default are public static final. That means if it is a final, that means we should initialize it. Whereas in the abstract class we don't have such restriction. And the next one is blocks. We did not talk about the blocks, but yes, I'll tell you maybe in the upcoming sessions. I'll tell you about what is a block and what is the use of it. But since this point come as part of the interface versus abstract, I just noted down here. But we'll talk about later in our future sessions what is the use of these static block or non-static block. But for now, the blocks are not allowed in interface. So I'll take some simple example here. Block means I'll take one simple class. So this is the syntax for you already know it, right? This is the syntax for class, and this is for method, and for a block, if you open the parenthesis and close the parenthesis, and inside that you can write anything. You can write all the things like whatever you are mentioning inside a method, but a block it just opening curly braces and closing it, and that is called a block. But here we have two kinds of blocks. One is a static block, and another one is this non-static block. Static block means when you declare a static modifier to this block, then it will be treated as a static block. So non-static block means without that modifier. So now, I'll come to this point when we are discussing about the static, because it's also an important topic. It will take a separate session to discuss about the static, because this will come on different areas like at a class level, inner class level, block level, method level, variable level. It comes in different ways, so we will have a separate topic on what is static, what is the use of it, where we need to use, and why we are using it. For now, we will just check on this block. So I'll just static block. On static block. So now if you observe here, I did not create any object. Okay, so this is my class. I have a main method, but I did not create any object. So I'm running it. That's it. So what happened? Only the static block gets executed, but non-static block did not execute. So just keep that point in mind. And when we are when we are discussing about static, we'll know more about static. But for now, the point here is in a class, if you have a static block, again, this is also another point that I have a next topic on this main method, like on this main method, public static void main. I'll discuss about that. There are some points, but here I have a class. I did not create any object, but still I have a main method, but I did not create object for that class. But still, when I'm running that class, the static block is there, it gets executed. And this is another point. If I don't have a main method, and this I'll cover, if I don't have a main method and I'm trying to run it, it will not run now. It compiled successfully, but it will not run because I don't have a main method, but still I have a static block, right? So now it is showing that it doesn't have a main method, but here up to 1.6, what is happening in a class? If I have a static block, but I don't have a main method, what it was doing, it was executing the static block. Though I don't have a main method, since I have a static block, it was executing it, but from 1.6 onwards it is not executing it. 1.6 onwards, so we should have a main method, otherwise it will not execute. Okay, but the point is not about that one. The point here is uh, I mean, I just want to let you know like where I mean just the syntax of a block. Okay, again we will discuss in detail about this block later, but this is how a block look like. So in the differences, what we are saying, in the interface it will not allow these blocks in an, whereas in abstract class it is allowing these blocks. Why? So the reason is I mean just now we saw that uh, without executing, if I have a main method, without executing without creating the object itself, the block is getting executed, right? If I have a main method. So if I have a main method, then without creating the object, uh, we were able to run this static block. But whereas in the interface, what we are saying, you should not create object, because for interface we cannot create an object, right? And what we are saying, and what is the use of interface there, it is just having the uh, declaration. It doesn't have any definition. So the rule is the interface is having only the uh, declaration. It will not have definition. And again, if you allow the static block inside an interface, that is against to the rule, because if you allow that static block, and if you allow to run that static block without without creating an interface, that is against to the rule. So that is why I mean while creating these rules itself, they created the rules like okay, an interface, it should not allow a static block. The reason is there itself, the reason is there because in interface it should have only only the declaration. It should not have any of the definition. It should have only the declaration. It should not have the definition. So that is why it will not allow any of the blocks inside an interface. But whereas in the abstract class, it will allow static blocks. So that is one point. And again, same point. I mean, we will discuss about like what is a constructor in later session. But again, in interface, it will not allow a constructor, whereas in the abstract, it will allow a constructor. Here also the reason is same. What we are saying. Uh, Same point here also. As per the interface rule, it should have only the declaration but not definition. So that is why if you see here, most of the points, I mean, these are all just to know as okay, these are the different differences, but overall point what we are saying, I mean all these points are talking about the same point. Of course uh, there are different modifiers which are allowing, not allowing, but all these points are talking about same single point, that is an interface should have only the declaration but not the definition. abstract class can have partial definition. At the same time, uh, can have abstract class can have declaration as well as definition, basically combination of declaration and definition. But whereas in the abstract interface, it it should have only the declaration but not the definition. Now you might get a doubt that, okay, what is the scenario that we need to use interface, or what is the scenario that we need to use abstract class, or what is the scenario that we need to use concrete class. Concrete class definition is clear that if you have um if you have something fully implemented, then that is concrete class. And if you are sure that, okay, you will completely implement all the methods in that class, then if you have a requirement that in that requirement you have a class where in that class you have four services, and if you know that, okay, you will implement all those four, then we will take that requirement, we'll create that requirement as a concrete class. If you, whereas for the other requirement, if you know that, okay, you have implementation for one method, one service, and you don't have implementation for three services, and you are expecting that whoever is providing the service for you is implementing those three services, in that case you will take that that requirement as, you will create that requirement as abstract class. And the next scenario, you just have only the requirement, and whoever is implementing those services, they are providing all the, they are providing the implementation for all the services, and in that case you will go for interface. Okay, so these are some of the high level differences between abstract class and interface. Okay, so next one is I'll cover one small topic on every time we were saying that every time we are saying that I think you might already know this. Every time we are saying this system.out.println, right? Okay, before starting this, so any doubts on abstract class or interface?
No, sir.
Okay. So then the next point is, so every time we are using this system.out.println, right? So what is this, and why we are using like this? Is it part of system class? Is it a method, or what is this? We'll talk about this. Uh, Let me take one example. Okay. Okay, here I have a class called system test. Okay, I'll take another class. Test 1. I have one method here, void get name. returning some name. Okay, so here I have two classes, and in this class system test one I have a method. So what I'm doing here, I'm taking this class here, and I just giving one reference name. Okay, I am making this as static. Yeah, we will discuss about like what is the static later, but for now I am making it as static. So what I'm doing, I'm calling this static, I'm calling the method. Not directly, but let me call it like this. I'll remove this from here. Okay, so now if I run this, let me print this. This is I'll make it as static. Okay. I mean, don't get confused about why I have taken different statics here, but I just took it an example. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I have a system test here that is the class name. Okay, this is the class name here, and I have an obj which is a reference to this system test one, and from that I'm calling the method that is present inside the system test one. Okay, so what I did here, I have so this is one class, this is an reference of another class, and from that class I'm calling the method, right? So same way this one also, system.out.println. So system is one class like this system test. Out is a reference for the print stream, like this object here is a reference for the system1. Println is method of print stream. Like our get name is method of system1. Okay. So that is the reason, that is how they declared it. So out is a reference for print stream. Println is part of print stream class, and print stream is declared as a static reference in the system class. So that is how we are making this system.out.println. Okay. So basically system is a class. Out is a reference to the print stream, which is again a static reference in the system class. And println is method of print stream. Okay, so that is how, just to show this, I have given this example. Okay, both are same, right? System is a class, object is obj is reference, which is static reference in the system test, and get name is part of this system test 1 class. Okay, any doubts in this? Okay, so the next one is every time we are seeing this public static void main. So what is this? Okay, so what is this public static void main? Every time we are seeing this, we are using it in all the classes. So we'll talk about this now. Okay, so now if you see the syntax here, we have a public modifier, we have static modifier, we have void as a return type, we have a name as main, we have a string array as an argument. Okay, so here total how many we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 things are there in this main method. Now we will discuss about each point here. So now if you see here, this is public. So we are declaring it as public. Why? So public means if you say any method or any class as a public, that means we should be able to access it from anywhere. So if you want some method or class want to be accessed from anywhere, any package, then we should declare that as a public. Because the main can present in any of the class. So for example, now I have the system test which is present in this com.netby.basics package. Now if you see here, while compilation time, I don't require this. Do I require this while compilation time? No. But to run this class, I need a main method. But who need a main method? Who require a main method? Who is running this class? So once we generate a class file, and to run it, who is helping? Right? So JVM is helping us to read the class and to execute the class. JVM is helping us, right? Now, to do that help, JVM requires this. If you want JVM to run any class, it will expect a main method. That is a rule. You might ask like why it is expecting. That is a communication point. That is a rule. So here the rule is if you want to run any class, JVM is helping us to run any class, and to do that help, it requires a main method. That is a rule. Okay, fine. So we have declared it as a main method, but how we should have the main method so that JVM can understand that. So that is why we have another rule saying that, okay, a main method, if if uh, if the main method is in this specific format, then only it will read, because that is the rule that is already defined. So always it will expect for the same method signature, the same syntax. Otherwise it will fail. Because in the JVM is also a software program, right? So in that, the program itself is written like, okay, it should accept the main method only in this format. Otherwise, throw some error. So that is how the code is written. So that is why we have this kind of syntax. And again, why we have this kind of syntax? Because the JVM is outside of our project, right? So what we are saying, uh, if we want to access a method, this main is also a method. So now the public is a modifier. So when we should declare a method as a public modifier, if you want any other class outside the any from anywhere want to access the method, then we should declare that it as a public. Now JVM is not part of our project. It is external to our project to give access to the main method. What we are saying, we are declaring it as a public. So only the reason for making it as a public is to get access it from anywhere. That is one point. The second point is static. Why we are declaring it as a static? Of course, we'll discuss about in detail about static, but the high level point about static is if you declare any variable or a method or a block as a static, then that means you don't need to create an object to access those things. Okay, now suppose for example I have a method here, public void m1. Okay, now I have a method here. If I want to access it, if I want to access this method, I should create an object. Otherwise, I cannot access it. That means this method is part of an object. Whereas if you declare something as a static block like this, or a static method like this, or not only main or any other static method, right? Any other, so any of these static static block, right? We no need to create an object. We can directly, suppose we can directly access them. I have shown example, right? So here I have a static method, and here I did not create object, right? I did not create object. Uh, Object means like this. If I'm creating an object means I should declare like this. So this is how we are creating an object, but I did not create any object. Okay, this is just a reference name, but this is not it is not connected with any object. This is just a reference name. So if I want to access any of the static methods or static blocks, create an object. That means static, if static things are not part of the objects, only the non-static methods or non-static variables are part of an object. So since main is not part of the method and we want JVM to access it, so that is the reason they declare it as a static. Now another thing is void. This is a return type. So return type means for any method, if you are returning something, whether you are returning a number or whether you are returning an object or whether you are returning some character or some word, then corresponding return type you need to give here as part of the return type. If you are not returning anything, then we should declare that method as void. So here in this method I am not returning anything, so that is the reason I have declared this method with void type. For example, I am returning something. Suppose I am returning some text, some string. Then it will say that change the return type, because here I mentioned void, and but still I am returning here. That is why it is showing an error. So if I mention it as string, then that will be gone. So the point here is, since from the main method we will not return anything, and of course JVM also will not expect anything to return, there is no use of returning anything, since JVM is not expecting, and if it is not expecting, then there is no point of returning something. So that is why the return type of this main method is void. And the next thing is main. Why we are giving the name as main? Why I cannot give as other name? So can I give like other name like Sai? Can I give it here? Yeah, you can give it here, but while running, it will expect only for the method with the name main. Okay, let's see here. So for example, now if I try to run it, what it is saying? It is saying it doesn't have main method. So that, because I'll tell you this example. So here, in suppose this is a JVM class, okay. So this is a JVM class, okay. So assume that this is a JVM class, whatever the JVM that we have, assume that this is a JVM, and inside this I have a method called main. with string argument, string array argument. Okay. Now, if I want to call the main method from the JVM, if I give like main1, will it accept? It will not accept because in the JVM it doesn't have a name with main1. In the JVM it is having the method name with main. So we should give the main, the method name as main, because the JVM, it has the method with the name main. If you give other name and compilation time, it will not show any error because JVM doesn't require any main method at compilation time, but run time, it look for that method name. Of course, the same point, because the signature itself, it is it is defined with the string array argument. If you pass any other argument, it will not accept. Let's see here. Say for example, I have a void main with integer value. Okay, that means method m1 is expecting an integer value. So now if I go here, suppose assume that I have created an object for this. Suppose if I am not passing it, what will happen? It is saying that it requires an integer to pass that value. Otherwise, it is not accepting because the method itself, the method signature itself, it is having the int value as an argument. While calling, if you don't pass that int value, it will throw an error. So the same thing, right? So the main method inside the JVM is declared with this string array argument. So if you don't pass that, then it will throw an error. So let me repeat it. So why we are making it as a public? Because JVM should be able to access it from outside our project. Static means since the main method is not part of the object and we should be able to access it, so that is the reason we are giving it as static. Void, we are not returning anything from the main method, so we are returning it as a void. We are setting it as a void. And main, the method name as a main, because inside the JVM itself, the name that is given for this main is main. And it is expecting string array argument, so that is the reason we are passing it as string array argument. Okay, so that is about why we are giving what is public, what is static, void, main, and this string array argument. But again, there are a few other points are there. Let me close this. Okay, So here the other points are, can I change this sequence here? So here every time I am giving public static void main string array argument, but can I change the sequence here? Yes, you can change the sequence, but only for the modifiers. Let me show you that. So I'll interchange these two. So first I'll keep static, and second I'm keeping it as public. Up to this is fine, but we cannot change the position of this void because it's a return type, and as per the syntax, the return type the compiler will expect at this position only. If you change this, then you will see the compiler error. Okay, so what it is saying, the return type is missing. Okay, so we cannot change that position of that return type. Okay, but for the modifiers, you can give it in any order. No issues there. That is one thing. The next thing is, can I change the main method name? Yes, you can change. For example, let's see this. I think we have already seen this, but let's see it again. Suppose I have given this as main M1. It is acceptable, but while running, it will fail. Let's see that. So what it is saying? It is saying that it doesn't have main method. That means JVM is expecting the method with the name main. If you declare any other methods, it doesn't have any issue, but while compilation time, it will check only for that method name. And if it's a case sensitive also. Like if I give like this also, it will not allow. Okay, it's saying it doesn't have main method. So it is a case sensitive. Next thing is, can I change this argument? So this is also same. You cannot give any other argument. So if I gave like integer array with the main method, yes, it will accept only for the compilation. But while running, again it will say that it doesn't have main method. Of course, we have a main method, but we don't have a main method with string array argument. So that is the reason it will fail. Okay. That is one point. Next, you can change this you can do a little bit modification here. Like I'm passing this string array argument like this, but you can give it like this also. Like I can give it like this. This is one way, or you can give it like this also. I mean, both are same, but it will accept in any of these type. So that is one thing. Now another thing is, it will accept this one also. Okay, I mean both are same. Declaring like this, or so this is a where args, and both are same. They introduced that concept in Java 5, but it's also same. string array only, but the way that you declare it is different. So it will accept that both are same, either with three dots or with this array signature. Both are same. So it will accept that. Let's see that. Okay, no issues there. Now let's see another one, like I mean it's not a new, because you have a same, not only for this main method but any of the methods you cannot give duplicate names with the same method signature, right? Method signature means including its arguments or return types or modifiers. With the same thing you cannot give the duplicate name. So yeah, this is clear, but the point here is so I'm giving here as integer argument. Okay, so this is acceptable. Okay, let's integer arg main method. Now if I run this, which one will call? The first one or the second one? Let's see. It will call the first one, because the main method, because we already discussed that a JVM will always look for a main method which is having string array as an argument. You can have the same method name with a different signature, but JVM will not call that during the runtime. I mean, so basically this is just like a method, just like a normal method, but it's not a main method. It's just a method. So you can call it by creating an object. Uh, by creating an object, you can call this method. So basically, it's just a method. A main method which is having a string array argument, which is not having the string array argument, is just a normal method. It's not a main method which JVM is expecting. Okay, that is one point. The next point is, let's see this. So this is my class, parent class. This is my subclass. Okay, I have like this. Yeah, this we have already discussed, right? In a single file, you can have more than one class, but if you declare any class as a public, then the file name should match with that class, otherwise it will not accept. Okay, that is that error. Let's see with this one. So now I have two classes here. In the parent class, I have a main method, and in the child class, which is extending the parent class, I don't have a main method. Now I am trying to run this child class, not the parent class. Okay. So normally, if you have any class, let's see this again. Okay, suppose for example, I have a class, but inside that class, if I don't have a main method, what will happen? It will throw that error saying that it doesn't have main method. Now, in this case, I have a child class, I have a parent class which is having a main method, and a child class which is extending the parent class, but it doesn't have a main method. So that is the scenario. Now, if when I run this child class which doesn't declare a main method, if I run this, will it run or it will say that it doesn't have main method? What will happen? It will run. Let's see. So now I am running the child class. So this is the child class name. I'm running it. It runs successfully. Why? The reason is when you extend a class, parent class, along with the normal classes, normal methods, it will inherit the main method also. If it exists, if the main method exists, it will inherit the main method also. Let's say that I'll give another method. Okay. I'll comment this. Okay. Now I have a parent class which doesn't have a main method, but it is having some method, and I have a child class which is extending the parent class, and that is also doesn't have main method. So now what it will say? It will throw that error saying that the child class doesn't have main method. Okay. But whereas in this case, in the parent class, I have a main method, and the child class which is extending the parent class, it doesn't have a main method. So then also when I'm trying to execute the child class, it will run successfully because it inherited the parent class main method. Okay, that is the reason it was running successfully. Now in the child class also I have another main method. In the child class also I have a main method. In the parent class I have a main method. In the child class also, which is extending the parent class, that is also having a main method. Now when I try to execute the child class, which one it will execute? It will execute child class main method. Let's see. So it is executing child class main method. Okay, but it is not overriding it is not overriding this one. Overriding means whatever the implementation that you have done here, it is not overriding. Actually, in the child class also, it is having the parent class main method, but it gets hide only the child class main method getting executed, but it is not overriding this parent class main method. It gets inherited, and since the child class is having the main method, JVM will take this main method and it execute, but it is not overriding this parent class main method. Okay, that is one point. So the next point is here if you see here so far we have given two modifiers, public static, but other than these two we can give three more modifiers. Let's see what are those modifiers. And I already told you that sequence doesn't matter only for modifiers. So you can mention them in any order. Okay. So now for this main method, other than these two modifiers, it is allowing three more other modifiers. Let's see what are those. One is final. It is allowed. If I run this, so that is accepting it. Another one is synchronized. I'll tell you about what the concept of synchronized later, but so the main method is accepting the synchronized modifier. Let's run this. It is running, and it will allow strict FP. Strict FP we already discussed. When we should declare any method as a strict FP means in that method, if you have any arithmetic operation and if you are expecting the arithmetic operation should return the complete floating point value and the platform independent floating point value, then you should declare that method as strict FP. So now here the main method is allowing the strict FP modifier also. Okay. So the main method is accepting all these 5 different modifiers. But generally we will use only public static. We will not use, and you don't see a real-time requirement also with these modifiers, but still uh, you can use those three. Okay. So yeah, so that's it about main method. And any questions?
No.
Okay. So yeah, today we discussed about the interface and some example on that, and what is the difference between abstract class and interface, and the different points about the main method, like what is what is the definition of, I mean, not the definition, but what are the different points about main method? Okay. So yeah, so tomorrow we will discuss about the rest of the modifiers, and if you have some time, then we'll discuss about some other OOPS concepts like polymorphism and inheritance. And if you observe the inheritance and polymorphism concept that we are already covering, but we are not saying that okay, this is inheritance or this is polymorphism, but we are already covering it. But yeah, when we come to that concept, again we will refresh those examples. Okay, so far we covered about packages, some of the modifiers, which includes the abstract interfaces concepts as well, and main method. Okay, but yeah, you guys need to do so many examples on this. See, I just covered, and just to cover different points, I just took one example on each point. Of course, in the same class, I just covered multiple points just to show you that okay, this is how it is working, or this is the rule that is defined. But while I'm explaining or while you are listening, you'll think that okay, you got bit understanding about that, but until unless you do programs on your own, until unless you do some mistakes and you rectify those mistakes on your own, you cannot get the concept. Okay. Yeah, I think it's just you guys need to practice a lot.
Okay.
Otherwise, you will not get it. Because I mean, say whatever the concepts I'm telling, the core Java concepts,